Greetings fellow watch lovers, today I invite you to take a look at my humble but hopefully all the more charming little watch collection. Now, since I've already uploaded videos talking about the more technical specifications, I would like to focus today on their subjective value, on what they mean to me personally. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. As you can see, my collection is very compact, numbering only 3 watches in total. Now, while I feel the urge to go beyond that and continue adding to it, I try to tell myself that 3 is actually a great number when it comes to watches. After all, they are meant to be worn, and having only a few allows me to do just that on a regular basis. Not only do they thus age with me, which is kind of a romantic thought, they also get imbued with all sorts of experiences I'm having with them. This makes them meaningful and makes them mine in a more deep sense than just owning them. Let's start with my least expensive and frankly my most fun watch, the Seiko SKX. Let there be no doubt, it is bad objectively. The bezel puts up a lot of resistance against any attempt of manipulating it. One has to force it to click over to the next position, and when it finally bends to one's will, it just feels cheap. It's so bad that I rarely ever touch it, and when I do, I'm usually in a masochistic mood. Oh, and I don't even want to mention its movement, which is both spectacularly inaccurate and for some reason impossible to wind by using the crown. One actually has to shake the watch. Yes, shake it to get it going. Nevertheless, it's somehow easy to gloss over these considerable weaknesses, or rather to reinterpret them to be charming quirks. In a strange way, they actually appeal to me and make me like this fun-looking watch with its playful bezel colors even more. It's like it just has a very interesting personality, a bit rough around the edges maybe, but all the more unique and likable for it. Every time I look down at my wrist, I'm not overly impressed by what I see, but I'm cheered up and immediately feel a rush of positive energy. Story time. I used to wear this watch a lot when doing community service. In Switzerland, all male citizens are required by law to do either military service, which is little fun, or community service. After suffering through the lengthy basic training in the Swiss Armed Forces, I switched to community service and was tasked with hunting down, not an imaginary enemy, but a very real and omnipresent one. I had to eliminate so-called neophytes, plants imported from abroad, threatening to take over and displace our local flora. Removing hundreds and thousands of so-called goldenrods, an import from North America, I was bored rather fast with the decidedly repetitive activity. To make life a bit less dull, I chose to wear this watch on the right rather than the left wrist, just to catch a glimpse of it while pulling out yet another goldenrod. May they rot in hell. The SKX being a dive watch, it reliably evoked beach scenes in my mind, water and lots of sand with not a single plant to be seen. I'm convinced that this conjuring up of an altogether different reality helped me through what would otherwise have been an unbearably boring time. On to my second diver in the collection, the Tudor Pelagos, the very first full titanium watch from the house of Rolex. In my book, it is a perfect modern tool watch, provided that the term tool is appropriate when talking about such an expensive item. Objectively, it cleans the floor or the bottom of the ocean with my Seiko, featuring a water resistance of up to 500 meters, a superior ETA movement, much better case finish, an infinitely better bracelet, and, perhaps most noticeably, ceramic bezel that is actually a pleasure rather than a chore to operate. The individual bezel clicks are so satisfying that I find myself playing with the bezel a lot when I'm bored. The icing in the cake has to be the last click, when the triangle aligns again with 12 o'clock. You can feel and hear it eyes closed. The Tudor Pelagos wasn't my first watch, but my first so-called good watch. Certainly the first which made me question my basic sanity after I splurged a considerable portion of my fortune on it. Even with the most acrobatic mental gymnastics, there was simply no way of rationalizing this purchase. With a smartphone, the perfect time-telling device already in my pocket, how could this thing, giving only an approximate indication of the time, be possibly worth that much? And yet, walking out of the boutique, I didn't regret my purchase one bit. I remember that the process of selecting it and talking to the watch dealer was so enjoyable that I completely forgot about the time and left much later than planned. Now that wouldn't have been an issue if it wasn't for my flight scheduled for this exact same day, from Zurich to Shanghai no less. Running all the way back to Zurich main station and once at Zurich airport, skipping lines and even resorting to my elbows to make progress, I managed to barely arrive at my gate in time with only 10 minutes to spare. While bumping into stuff left and right, I scratched its sapphire crystal, which is quite a feat due to the extreme scratch resistance of sapphire. The mark near the date window is scarcely noticeable, but it reminds me to this day to plan ahead and not be too spontaneous, even though I got away with it that time. Last but certainly not least, my Grand Seiko SPGA 435, a limited edition for the Chinese market, only sold to people residing within China. Now, provided that you are not blind and that your aesthetic preferences don't differ too much from mine, its beauty will immediately endear itself to you. It's simply one of the most jaw-dropping blue dials I have come across, regardless of price. The intricate cloud pattern as well as the finish of the hands and indices capture my attention and keep it often for much longer than would be needed to just tell the time. Suffice it to say, it's definitely a bad idea to look at this watch while crossing the street or, God forbid, while driving. I confess that I bought this watch thinking I might sell it again. It's a very rare piece, awfully hard to get, especially outside of China. As the Peacock and others have taught us, limited Grand Seikos tend to appreciate. At least it's what I told myself when I snatched one before they sold out in under a week. Lo and behold, I put it up for sale and received many a generous offer. One person was willing to travel hundreds of kilometers from the most northern part of Germany down to Switzerland just to take a look at the watch. Another gentleman offered me 2 watches, an expensive Omega and a popular Tudor in exchange for just this one. By the way, the Grand Seiko even started a friendship with an inquiry about his watch turning into small talk and into an ongoing discussion about classical music, believe it or not. In the end though, and against my own best advice, I just couldn't part with it. The watch, with its connection to China, elevated itself above an object, above a mere means to make money. It reminded me of the time I spent in China, me navigating Shanghai's deserted streets during COVID and after the first wave, traveling this amazing country. Lastly and most importantly, it reminds me of my better half, my Chinese girlfriend who assisted me in securing this watch. I'm not sure any amount of money would be able to outweigh that. So that is it, my watch collection as of early 2021. Thanks for watching this video, and if you made it this far, you might as well consider clicking that all-important like button and subscribing. Thanks again and see you again soon.